You ever get the sense that the companies that you're doing business with do very, very little to push that product forward? And by push it forward, I mean, do they ever actually do anything to improve the product? Now, nobody has to really get crazy, especially if you have had a tried and tested product and people like it, they know how to use it. Does it make you a bad company if you don't constantly do something to change and upgrade it? Well, I don't know about that, if it makes you a bad company or not, but I can tell you that Planiversity is definitely not one of those companies that sits around and just lets people enjoy the service the way it is. We actually go after it. We're making changes. We're always upgrading things, and we're always trying to make the experience for our users better. So if you have a cup of coffee in about I'd say 15, 20 minutes, I'd like to run you through all those new changes. What's up, everyone? Erich Allen, founder of Planiversity, back with you to talk about changes that we've made to the software recently. Now, one of the greatest things about being a startup is the fact that we can constantly pivot, and we can pivot on a dime right now. We can actually make changes in a moment's notice if we need to, all right? Now, we have been in business for a few years. We've got a solid 5,000 users right now, but one of the biggest things that large companies will run into is their limited ability to be able to make changes or implement changes on a moment's notice, all right? So usually they can build things up, they can protract it, they can draw out their plans and slowly start to implement something, but to make a significant change overnight is a pretty big thing, right? In fact, if you have 5 million users and 10% of those users want to actually see some kind of change to the software, now that's a pretty big population or a big group of your audience that wants to see some kind of change. But one of the things that you have to take into consideration is implementing that change going to affect the other 90%? And chances are, you know, we all know how things are. You're not always going to make everyone happy. So chances are when you do make a change to a piece 10%, you're going to end up affecting the other 90% in some way. And maybe you turn off 5% of those users and they end up walking and going the other direction. So that's fine. You know, hopefully the changes that people make are usually for the better, and that'll end up drawing in more people in the long run. But with a large company, it's significantly more difficult to make a quick change. Whereas with us at Planiversity, still a startup, we could see something, we could say, hey, this isn't working that great, or, you know, we can work on the conversion rate a lot better if we do this, or we can work on the flow functionality a lot better if we just take this one little part and we move it from there to there. And that's what we've been doing. We've been constantly making changes, making upgrades, doing things to make the user experience so much better. And not only that, but we also want to make the service more intuitive. We want to make it help the person. We want somebody to come to us for their travel or event planning, and as they're walking through the service already sees the direction that they're going. Is like, hey, look, you're going here. Let us help you with this. Let us help you with that. Do you need to build a schedule? Do you need insurance for this trip? All these little things we are designing to do. So it's almost like you're sitting down person to person with a travel planner or an event planner, but you're actually not. You're sitting face to face with a software that's doing the same work that a person would do. Now, can it give you the same attention that you need as a person? No, absolutely not. Although we're working on that, but it cannot. But the more that we can get in that direction, the better off it's going to be for our user experience. So without further ado, I hope you got your cup of coffee, because I do. Let's go ahead and we're going to start talking about the changes that we've started implementing in the last 2 months. All right. Probably if you've been visiting Planiversity, you haven't noticed them. Maybe you've picked up on things. If you're a very observant person, you might have picked up on one or two things. But most of the things that we implement, we do so kind of under the radar so that one day you won't really recognize it to the next. Some things obviously are much larger than others, but we'll start from small and we'll work our way into big to the things that you're you're definitely going to notice. Okay. So again, without further ado, let's go ahead and start talking about number one, the password criteria. All right. So one of the things is, the internet world is only getting bigger as we go on. All right. As we move into the future, not only is the internet going to become a fundamental part of life like it already is, but it's probably going to have its influence on even more of our life than it does right now, which means it's going to be more and more susceptible to hacking, to people doing negative things with information if they can get their hands on it. Which is exactly why we want to take measures to make sure that from the ground up, we are protected. All right. Planiversity is not the type of service that stores your data and sells your data. We will never be a company that sells your data. That I can promise my users, but we don't want to do that. We want to help people have an experience and not have to worry about whether or not Planiversity is selling their information to a marketing company just so they have a couple of leads. We absolutely will not do that. I would highly recommend working with more Western countries or countries who have a deep practice in that type of data protection laws. If you're operating out of the EU, if you're operating in the United States, Canada, Australia, chances are good that your information is going to have a higher chance of being protected. Whereas if you're operating out of certain other countries that I've gone into in other podcast episodes, you're definitely less secure, and the statistics can back that up. So what we did was, of course, we start from the ground up, and from the ground up means password protect, and don't just give a simple password. Never just use the password 1234, the thing that's going to be easy for a 5-year-old to be able to figure out. You want to actually have a secure criteria. So we went ahead and we did have this from the very beginning. We did post a recommended secure password criteria, although not everybody is using that. Okay. And then of course, sometimes, you'll get people sign up for the site, and what they'll do is they don't really feel like leaving their name. So they just jumble a bunch of keys and that's their name, just so they can get in and test out the process, which is absolutely fine. Don't really care. We just want people to feel comfortable enough to come to us to play around with the service, and then if they take it serious enough, then they'll make changes. But what we want is for anybody to be sorted out from a bot traffic. Bot traffic is something that is becoming more and more known these days. It's probably becoming more and more discussed, even though people don't really know much about it. But there are bots out there that can actually, especially if there's no password criteria, they can drop an email and then all of a sudden they have an account. If the account creation criteria is not really that difficult, then it's easy for bots or automated bots to be able to grab an account, and then next thing you know, your numbers are inflated and none of the accounts are actually legitimate. But that's not the case with us. And one of the ways that we make sure that people are protected is by not only giving you a recommended secure password criteria, but now we actually kind of enforce that. So when you come up here and you start putting in your password, the system is going to bounce that information off you and make sure that you actually hit that secure password criteria before you're able to move on. And I know for some people that can be painful, but data security is highly important. If you're ever going to be putting in information saying, I'm traveling from New York and I'm going to Boston and I'm going to be staying for 5 days and I'm going to be staying at this location, that information needs to be protected from anyone. If it's not you, it needs to be protected from anyone. All right. So one of the ways that you can start as a user on your end, making sure that you're secure is by always making sure that you have a secure password. And so, of course, like I said, we're going to bounce what you're giving us back off you and say, hey, look, not secure enough. Make sure you check all these blocks, and then boom, you are good to go. So when you start typing, you can see that we cover those things. So you put in a letter, uppercase letter, a character, and now I can just put anything in. So, and then of course, if you just try and throw anything else in there and you select I'm not a robot, the system's going to just keep coming back to you. But this CAPTCHA, this password criteria, this is all designed to make sure that users have protected information. Okay. So we thought that this was an important feature. We don't make the login process any more difficult. Registration is still a piece of cake. You just put in your name, your email, create a password, and you are off and running. That's it. We don't want the login process or the registration application process to be any more complex than it needs to be, but we do want it to be as secure as possible. So that is our first step, and that's a big step. Data privacy is never going to go out of style. It's never going to be something that is not discussed. All right. That's one of those things that the more we go on in the future with dealing with websites and internet-based businesses and services as software, the more these things are going to come into play. All right. So step 2, Outlook Incorporation. This was something that was actually given to me on recommendation because, as you know, Planiversity had the Google Calendar connection, right? So basically you could come in here, you just click this little toggle switch, and anytime that you create a packet, like, Dave's golf trip, the Smith family vacation, when you create that event or that trip, not only does this date right here jump over to that email notification where you can link it to your Google Calendar, but all of the scheduled events inside that packet also do. So, it was great to have that connect to Google Calendar feature, but someone said to me, hey, look, there's a lot of businesses out there that use Microsoft products, so it probably would be a good idea if you guys also offered Outlook Calendar connection. And that blew my mind because that absolutely makes sense to me, right? So I'm thinking about this, and I know at least, even I use Outlook. So I use Google and I use Outlook, and it made perfect sense. Businesses do use Microsoft products a lot, so why not offer that option as well? That wasn't one of those big things that went out there and it was super announced. We did announce it on social media, but at the same time, it's one of those things that just kind of dropped in overnight and you wouldn't have known if you weren't looking for it. So we do now offer the Outlook Calendar link. It works just the same way as Google Calendar. So whatever the email is that you registered with, you go ahead, you switch that toggle switch on, and now once you complete a packet, that information gets emailed over to you, and now you can actually link to Outlook Calendar, link to Google Calendar. Awesome feature. Love it. All right. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is the Planiversity deals page, the deals page. So I know this is not something that we've also been broadcasting. We are running deals. We are talking about these things. So if we actually post a deal and we post it on LinkedIn or we post it on social media or we push it out in email marketing, this is the address that it's actually going to link people to, is the planiversity.com/deals. So if you come here, this is where we're going to keep our deals updated. Now you can see today there's actually the holiday sale going on. This started as a Black Friday through Cyber Monday deal, and now it's actually just always going to be updated with whatever deal we have going at the moment. So you don't have to sit there and fish through social media or wait for us to advertise some kind of new deal that's going on. Instead, you can just go to planiversity.com/deals, and we're always going to have whatever deal we have at the moment populated right here. Okay, there won't always be a Christmas tree, but there will always be information about what deal, and then of course how you would redeem the coupon once you actually get into it. All right, it's pretty straightforward page. Everything here just links right back to Planiversity's main site. So when you go here, it's very easy to find, it's very easy to use, and it's a very, very easy way to be able to find the deals that we have going on. All right. We thought that this was going to be an awesome addition. Again, not one of those things that absolutely stands out to people. So when we implemented this, again, it was kind of an overnight thing. We'd been working on it, discussing it for a little while, and one of the things that we did was we went ahead, we made sure it was where we needed it to be, and then we just dropped it in overnight before Black Friday, and that's what it is now. So anytime in the future you need to know or you want to know if there's any kind of deals going on with Planiversity, just go to planiversity.com/deals. It's always going to be there. All right. Next change would be the account page. Now, the account page, okay, we've definitely had something like that before, right? Where you could actually change your password. And yes, the answer is yes, we did, but not at this point. So we're starting to evolve off of it because we have to mesh what we have going on with the application and with the website. So we got to bring these two worlds together. And of course, we want to start building security. So if you come here from the dashboard, again, dashboard doesn't look any different. Although one of the things you may notice is billing used to be up in this top section. So now we have the account section down here, which is collapsible, as you can see, but we have the account section down here. We have the settings section down here. And what you can do is you just click on the profile, but we also, since it's part of an account process, we went ahead and we dropped profile down here. So just click on that page. It'll bring you right up here where you can, I know, very simple stuff, but you can update your profile picture. You can update your email address. If you registered with one email address and you want to switch it up and you want to change it to another one, you can do that here. You can change your password here instead of just using the app. We did have that before, the change password, but we didn't have a page dedicated to it. It was more like what's in this link up here. So now you can actually just come here, change your password, and this right here, this telephone number, this is not a mandatory thing right now. This is an optional thing, but going forward, we do have every bit of intention to implement a one-time password for security purposes. So as the site continues to evolve, if you want to opt in for two-factor authentication, then you absolutely can, just by dropping in your phone number here, and then you would enable this. And what's going to happen is when you go to log into the service, a one-time password gets texted to you or text over to you, and then you go ahead and enter that password, and boom, you're into the service. So no longer do you actually have to sit there and just pop your email address in or just go based on whatever Google has stored in its security passwords. Now you can actually just opt in for that two-factor authentication, which I thought was pretty important, especially when you start getting into the app. The more the service evolves, the more information is going to be in there when you're planning. So that makes more sense to make sure that it's kept as secure as possible, right? It's a huge thing to us, and we want to make sure that we follow that with everyone. All right, so far we've covered the passwords. We've covered the add Outlook to the dashboard, which is an awesome feature. We've talked about the accounts page, which is here, that you could actually update your password, change your email address, and put in your phone number for the upcoming one-time password authentication. And then the deals page we also talked about. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump back to the landing page. Let me keep you with me here. So we're going to go back to the landing page. And one of the other things you may or may not have noticed is the landing page actually got updated as well. So one of the things that you will actually see now is it doesn't look any different up here, but as you start to scroll down, of course, we've replaced the image here with an updated image from a packet that has been created recently. I'm just going to go ahead and turn off this social notification. But we've got that updated. You know, everything else looks pretty similar. Okay, so here we actually threw an image of the first page of your packet in there, the itinerary packet, which is great. Now, one of the things that I wanted people to be able to do in the past is, instead of having to go into the service, play around with the service, go through the entire thing just to see what the product looks like in the end, now you can actually come to this section right here, the what you'll get section of the landing page, and you can just click right here on the view plan, and what that does is that auto downloads to your computer. So always make sure that you have those permissions enabled or disabled if you need to make sure that something can auto download. But you can see right down here at the bottom that I've got a packet here that I've just downloaded from Planiversity, and this is actually a test packet. So if you want to see what the process actually looks like, what we do, how the service looks, and what you're going to get in the end if you come in here and you start doing your planning, this is what it's going to look like. All right, so we want to make sure that people had the opportunity to come here, figure it out, or check it out before they were committing themselves. All right, and of course, if they like what they see here, then everyone's going to be so much more enthusiastic about wanting to go through the process. If they don't like what they see here, then they know they don't have to waste their time, which is good for everyone. We've also updated the video on here. So if you want to see a little bit more about how the service works, of course, we're going to have to update that probably every year, every 6 months, because we're always making changes. But that is something that we've just updated. So now you can actually go through that. And instead of the last video that we had in there, which was about travel planning, about Planiversity, but not super specific, this one is actually more specific about how the process is done. All right. And last but not least, I'm actually going to pull up our project management board here for a second, because I want you to be able to see this. So we are super excited about this. At least I'm super excited about this. So Planiversity is now going to have, and you'll notice this if you go to the landing page and you continue to scroll, you'll see that we have a new marketplace section right here. Now, obviously, there's nothing there yet, but what you're going to see is something that is this. Now, that's not going to be on the landing page, obviously, but you go to the landing page, you're going to see our section on that. In fact, I'm going to show you exactly how this is going to look. And you can see right here as you scroll down, and if you want to look at the landing page, I'll tell you what, I will even show how the landing page is going to look once it's complete. Very exciting thing. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about the process of the marketplace. What we wanted to do is we wanted to offer more than we do right now. And of course, Planiversity's already got a lot going on. We already offer a lot of features, but one of the things that I wanted to do was make sure that we have a way to actually offer people services that are more than just travel and event planning. I almost want people to have this one-stop shop when they come to us. Not only do I want them to just have access to that planning and event planning option, but I want them to be able to pick up information. I want them to have, courses and books and access to professionals in the business. And this is exactly what we came up with. So this is going to be a very exciting thing for us. So again, let's come back here. If you go through the landing page, you're going to see this right now. Soon this is going to be updated. We have this plan for launching in January. Now, what this is going to be is exactly what you see right here. There's going to be a link up in the header. You can come to this page, and what we're going to do is we're offering these services like courses and eBooks, travel services, event services. So, you might come to Planiversity and say, hey, I need to plan a trip for 4 to London, England. And great, I can use Planiversity to plan all of that, to put all that information together. But what about actually having some kind of concierge? What about having somebody who's from London, who knows the area, who can tell me where not to go, who can tell me what's best to do this time of day, or, what time is best to do this? You want access to that type of information, and that's exactly the type of thing that we're going to start offering. So we're going to connect users to professional services. So not only is it going to be just travel and event planning software, but now you're actually going to be able to get access to these awesome features. So, courses I thought was just going to be a given. I thought that was going to be something that was really awesome for people. The same thing with eBooks, travel services, event services. Those are going to be a big one. I mean, just think about that. If I'm going to Brazil, who better to talk to than someone who specializes in Brazilian travel, that they can say, hey, look, here's my recommendation. I would say if you're interested in seeing a museum, there's a couple right here in Rio de Janeiro. You might want to check these out. If you go to Sao Paulo, then you can check a few out here. The point is to get people connected to professional services. And that's what we want to do. That's what we plan to do in the future. We plan to become the one-stop shop. So instead of you now going to that travel agent, that travel planner, you're going to be able to sit down face to face with our software, and it's going to be everything that a travel agent is for you. So I'm going to leave you there. That's a lot of changes to talk about. We also have some awesome things coming up in the future. The first quarter of 2023, we've already got like 5 or 6 new upgrades tasked out. So everything's exciting. please stay tuned. Keep updated. I mean, we're just going to keep posting these videos. We're going to keep pushing this information out just to make sure that everyone knows that we're changing and upgrading things. And please, if you have any feedback, if you have any suggestions or recommendations, always just feel free to reach out to us at plans@planiversity.com. Love hearing from you, and everybody seems to be happy with us so far, especially with regard to customer service. So with that, safe travels. If I don't talk to you soon, have a great Christmas. Take care.